This is the review of the Air Max Zephyr. I think this is sort of like a sleeper. They've had the Air Max 70 concept ongoing for a while, but I've always had a problem with it because this was way too high and it just compressed way too easily. And on the forefoot, it was a little bit stiff, or I didn't really feel much except for some elevation, but not a lot of the cushioning. So this, personally, to me, is a wonderful upgrade, or rather the 720 Max Tier concept shoe done right, with the ability to really let you feel what the all-around Max 720 should feel like. First of all, this for size 9.5, it weighs about 450 grams, which is not too heavy. And yeah, first thing you notice is this bubble, air bubble. It's aesthetic. It's not in any way going to help provide a lockdown or anything. Yeah, it's not like the Puma pump, where rather the Reebok pump, where they have a air bladder that actually tightens or really provides a customized fit. It's just there for aesthetic purpose, but it looks nice. Just like those backpacks from Nike where you have those air bubbles. It's really not gonna do much, but it makes you feel like you've got, the air soles to display. The Air Max 720 format here actually works because firstly, they actually managed to control the PSI a little bit in such a way that, and also the materials they use, as you can tell, it's sort of like a tube here. For the typical 720s, as you move forward, this is sort of like a plasticky, hard, much harder surface than this part. So there's going to be less compression or areas to expand here compared to the heel. But here, they've actually made the changes to make this tube a tube. See how soft it is? Yeah, so you can actually feel the air working. And another plus is that the foam material around it is super soft. It's Cushlon soft. I don't know what material it is, but it's very low density and soft, and it actually works in tandem nicely with the Max Air. And on the forefoot here, I like the fact that they stopped the Air Max tubing here, where the toe area is. It's more like this soft foam around you. The problem I had with what I felt was the perfect max volume air sole unit shoe Nike had in the past was the LeBron 10 and the Hyperflight Max. They used full-length max volume Zoom Air. It was great until nearby the toe area, because they've actually had the Zoom Air on the part nearby the toe area kind of stopped somewhere weird, and there was a border and a hardness and rigidity you can feel right below your toe. So I think most of the times, most people will actually, do some aggressive movements in the shoe, you will have your toes kind of like, crunching up and really compressing against the surface. So if there's inadequate cushioning or relatively strong contrasting hardness there compared to the Zoom Air you were feeling here, you will feel like you're crashing onto something. So that really was a bit of a disappointment for the Max Flight Max and the LeBron 10s. They thankfully had some really thick insoles, which helped, but once that insole bottoms out, you'll feel that crash pad, or rather crashing, that wall for you to crash on the toe area. But the foam here is so soft that it actually works nicely in tandem with the Max in terms of the transition and to provide this soft pillowy feel for your toe area. So that's definitely a plus for me. And also, as you go at the back, because the Max volume Air is pretty thick, like what you've seen in the 270s, if you enjoy the Max heel air on the 270 or the 270 Reacts, you will definitely enjoy this. It's actually a little bit softer because it's got more air to expand or circulate. One thing that's dangerous about this shoe is that although it's got a pretty wide base, if you were to have some pinpoint landing or stepping movement on certain parts, it will kind of start to wobble or get a little bit jello-y as you land. So if you're sensitive and your ankle might get injured that way, this is something you might want to avoid as a performer. It is not designed as a performer to begin with, but the cushioning setup would have been a welcome inclusion for any future performance basketball shoes or running shoes in the days and years and months to come. One thing that's dangerous about this shoe is there is no heel cup. There's no heel cup, but right above the Max Air, this sort of works as a heel clutching system, at least around the side of the heels. So it does provide a certain level of stability. But of course, if you're sensitive about having heel cups, don't wear this shoe for any activities that might lead you to injuries. The size, it for me, it ran a little bit short and a little bit tight around the in terms of the width on the forefoot area. And because of this heel to toe drop, the more you walk around with it or run around it, you will be sliding forward a little bit. So you might want to have some extra space here so that your toes are like scrunching up in the frontal areas. The neoprene tongue is nice. The tongue is a thick neoprene padding, so it's super soft. And the upper material is sort of like a mesh. I wouldn't say engineer mesh, somewhat of a cross or a hybrid between mesh and knit. And it's got this nice fused coating with some leather, I guess, areas. It's very breathable. That's good. And the outsole pattern is definitely an upgrade from the typical 720 Max 720s, because if you remember the Max 720s, all they've had was some ribs around the outer ring, and on the middle it was just exposed foam or just some flatness there. So it was a little bit dangerous in terms of providing adequate traction, but this got some nice little patterns there, and it's very thick and deep. It's not going to provide amazing biting traction, but certainly a lot better traction than the typical 720s. Once again, I remind you, this is not designed for performance, but you can wear them to do certain activities. But if you need an extra level of security, whether it's a ankle inversion, anti-ankle inversion protection, or secure heel clutching, yeah, this is not the shoe for you. But 720 cushioning with a nice setup with soft enough foam that complements the Max Air nicely. This is the best setting I've experienced so far from Nike, especially compared to the 720s. They usually tend to be on sale, so be on the lookout for them. Definitely worth grabbing if you like the design, or if you want to truly feel what good 720 Max setting should feel like. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. The insole is just paper thin EVA, but even with or without this, you can actually feel the air working underneath your foot. So definitely nice touch by Nike. And I like this little hypnotic, warped Nike Air logo there. Certainly something that you might want to consider in terms of comfort and design. Weird name though, Zephyr.